wow, I nearly fell over. This guy. If you go back, you'll find I've got quite a few videos that have this guy in them. Someone who studied deeply and saw all the ocracies and isms for what they are. And, I know, he was an advocate for socialism. Before you jump up and down, do you really comprehend socialism? Because you can't understand it if you don't comprehend it. You can't be withstanding or not withstanding. You hear what I'm saying? You're picking up what I'm putting down? We already have a soft socialism. We've had it for fucking years. We've had it as long as I've been on this earth. Everything that's publicly supported through taxes and so forth, all of those institutions, from your library to your school, to your fire brigade, to your police, to everything that's publicly done. Before council became privatised as a third tier governance and privatised all the public services, all of that was a socialist ideal. But we had a different name for it, and it was structured slightly differently. It was Commonwealth owned. In other, we owned it. The Commonwealth of Australia owned it. While the Commonwealth, the people were above the government with the Constitution in between us, it all belonged to us. But, government be government and politics be politicking, and next thing you know, you got the government and us, and the Constitution has been rewritten, and they pull it out every now and then when they want to, so they can go, oh yeah, that says may and not must, so we may not as well. I'm talking, of course, about Michael Parenti. I'm not the hugest fan of Jimmy Dore, but I watch him now and then. Why? Because I like to challenge myself. I like to challenge myself. Anyway, tribute where tribute is deserved, and Michael Parenti is. Go look at some of his stuff. There's heaps of it on here. What's his name? Bernie Sanders was a good friend of his. And he saw Bernie Sanders turn on the people and just become a tool for the oligarchs who pretends to not be one. Anyway.
Conspiracy theory is a term that's used whenever anybody ascribes conscious intent to people with power. But the minute I say to you that the very people at the top, the plutocracy, the very rich and powerful, the ones who own most of America, that they are consciously pursuing power and wealth, someone will come along and say, what do you have, a conspiracy theory? Or they'll say, oh, you're cynical or you're paranoid.
So Michael Parenti, who's a great guy, I love this guy. We've had his son on the show, Christian Parenti, who's a professor at the John Jay College in New York.
I'm going to pause that. People who think they are free in this world just haven't come to the end of their leash yet. You will have no sensation of a leash around your neck if you stick by the peg. It is only when you stray that you feel the restraining tug. I love that. How true.
And so he died, he passed over the weekend, and I just wanted to show you some of my favorite clips of him that I found on Twitter. And so here's my favorite quote of his: people who think they're free in this world just haven't come to the end of their leash yet. You will have no sensation of a leash around your neck if you sit by the peg. It is only when you stray that you feel the restraining tug. That is so true. Most people are like, what do I got? I got nothing to worry about. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing. Yeah, well, try to do something.
That's America.
I felt that tug when I told the truth about Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton and the 2016 cheating. I felt that tug. I felt it when I debunked Russiagate. I felt that tug.
And Michael Parenti, like I just said, was actually very good friends with Bernie Sanders until Bernie Sanders sold out. They all sell out, people, just like Pauline Hanson has.
I felt it when I told the truth about the Syrian war and the fake false flag gas attacks. I felt that tug. I felt that tug when I told the truth about forced the vote, and I tried to get the Democratic Party, the progressives inside the Democratic Party, to do what they campaigned on. Almost the entirety of the corporate media came against me. All the Democrats came against me. And again, to discredit me. I felt that tug. I felt that tug when I told the truth about the Ukraine war. And of course, I felt that tug when I told the truth about the COVID. When I told the truth about vaccines and masks and lockdowns, and when I told the truth about where the virus came from and how they're all lying about it, and how they all lied about herd immunity and natural immunity, and how they lied about ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, and how they lied about early treatments, and how they lied about there wasn't a thing they didn't lie about. I felt that tug. I felt the weight of the world come down on me, because the great thing, the most insidious thing the establishment does is it gets regular people to internalize their message and think they thought of it themselves and that they're being righteous by attacking their fellow American. That's what happened to me. People I've known all my life still attack me over my telling the truth about COVID. Not lying about it, but telling the truth and pointing out where the government and the media lied and Big Pharma lied about the guy. I've experienced that. And
they haven't checked. They haven't checked any of it.
They haven't.
Because if they did, they've admitted to the shit you said before already.
So what I've often told people, it's like, so if you are really this wound up about COVID and all the damage it's done, and you're angry at the people who wouldn't take a vaccine, which was not really even a vaccine, that then why don't you have even a tenth of that outrage for the guy who we all know now invented that virus? It didn't come from a wet market. We all know it came from the lab that Fauci funded to create this, even though Barack Obama put a moratorium on that kind of research, the gain-of-function research. He did it anyway. He did it, went around Barack Obama, gave it to EcoHealth a lot. So why aren't you just as angry at Fauci? No anger for Fauci. Isn't that weird? Of course it is, because they've internalized the establishment message, and now they're going after their neighbor, and they keep us fighting. So that's one of the best quotes ever. Just think about this
fantastic
quote. Just think about that quote. And the reason why none of my ex-friends in Hollywood feel that tug is because they're sitting next to the peg. They're not they didn't go against the establishment on Ukraine or Russiagate or or anything. They didn't go.
It's also a case of denial, self-denial. It's a case of denial. I'm not going to interrupt this too much, because this is going to be one of those ones where I'm going to go, yeah, you go, Jimmy, you go, Jimmy, go. I can tell that already. It's denial. Imagine. No, I didn't have it. My kids didn't have it. My ex had it. And she's got nothing but health issues. She's always had health issues. She's a hypochondriac. But she actually has legitimate health issues now. She actually went crazy after she had it. She couldn't find enough dicks to bounce on, but didn't want mine. I'm sorry. I know. I'm almost insultingly honest. A lot of people don't know how to take that. I'm unapologetically honest. It's what happened. It's simply what happened. I actually don't entirely blame her, because she wasn't always like that. It wasn't until she had the COVID shot. She actually went bonkers. Started screaming at us all and carrying on, and just like crazy. That's why it hurts so much, because I know something was not right, but I've had to just leave it. I've had to let it go. At the time, I was still healing internally from an attempted murder. A bloke tried to kill me with a hammer. I still bump into him now and then, and he's realised he hasn't whacked it over me. We lost everything over it. I lost business, 5 cars, our home. We lost everything, and I built everything from nothing for 10 years, and we went from nothing to extremely comfortable gone, just like that. I had no support, and I still had a family dependent on me. It was rough. It was rough. Okay, I don't have mum and dad to fall back. I don't have the bank of mum and dad. I've never had the bank of mum and dad. Right? I'm not sitting here whinging, oh, poor me. Not at all. Pick yourself up. Fucking have a go, you gronk. You know? Like, but you do got to go through a healing period. When we broke up, I gave myself 2 years to come good. If you go right back to the start of this lot of my videos, because I had a YouTube channel once before, if you go right back to the start of it, you'll see where I'm just starting to come out of it. I look different. Okay? I look different. Because I fell off the wagon for a little while. It was the only way I could still function without... I still had 2 kids dependent on me. And I didn't want to be a wallowing mess. I didn't want to be crying in front of them. 19 years is a long time. And I was just starting to come good after losing everything. And then that happened. So yeah, you know, like... But they still depended on me. So I don't do psychologists and psychiatrists. Why? Because as soon as you conflate emotional trauma with psychological damage and get them all fucked up, you end up with psychiatric problems. Psychological damage and emotional trauma are not the same. Should never get that shit twisted and flipped upside down. It's not depression. It's not a chemical imbalance. It's called processing trauma. Temporary fake happiness was the best option I had that I knew that I could obtain. I gave myself 2 years to get through it. Look at me now, motherfuckers. You ain't ready for what's coming back out of this box. I've came back 10 times stronger than I've ever been. So, you know, let's not judge, hey? Now, it's a bit of a rattle, isn't it? Let's get back to this.
Go against it on Syria. They didn't go against it. They didn't go against it on. They didn't go against it on COVID or lockdown. None of it. They didn't go against it at all. Here's one of my favorite quotes of his. You know how they use conspiracy theory? They're still doing it. They still try to call people who are noticing things conspiracy theorists. And here's what he has to say about conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theory is a term that's used whenever anybody ascribes conscious intent to people with power. So I can say to you that school teachers are concerned about their salaries and they're organizing and they're threatening a strike and they're pressuring. I can say to you that farmers are doing this and looking for subsidies and facing certain policies. But the minute I say to you that the very people at the top, the plutocracy, the very rich and powerful, the ones who own most of America, that they are consciously pursuing power and wealth, someone will come along and say, what do you have, a conspiracy theory? Or they'll say, oh, you're cynical or you're paranoid. Their view is that stuff just happens. Things just happen, unintended consequences, or our leaders are stupid and they're jerks, or they're confused and they don't know any better. And of course, the critic knows much better than everybody else. People who operate in this world operate with intent. There's no such thing as imperialism without imperialists. There's no such thing as capitalism without capitalists. There's no such thing as rulers who are somnambulists who walk around in their sleep. You watch out for your interests. You watch out and you make calculations. What makes you think that David Rockefeller doesn't? What makes you think that the people at the top don't do it? And what makes you think they don't collude and organize? Or what do you think? You have a group of people who sit around in a room and they plan this? And I always say, oh no, God, they don't sit around in a room. They meet on carousels and they go up and down merry-go-rounds, or they meet skydiving, they hold hands and they argue. Of course they sit in rooms. Where the hell else are they going to meet?
So what I always say when people say that to me, oh,
Love
you
it.
conspiracy nut, you think they get together in a room and I'm like, yes, they do, but it's not in secret. It's called a session of Congress.
Right.
Do you think when the people who are elected to Congress get together in a session of Congress, you think they're doing the bidding of students or workers?
I wonder if he's going to quote George Carlin on that same topic. George Carlin's got a brilliant version of it.
Or poor people, or elderly people, or sick people, or anybody else except the donor class? Do you think they're doing the bidding of anybody else besides that? That's what that is. How about we now know that the Bilderbergs is a real thing? What do you think? What do you call Davos and the WEF, who that just last week they had their huge meeting? Now everybody knows about it, and they all take their 3,000 private jets and they fly into Davos and they say, "How are we going to fight climate change?" Well, should we get rid of private jets? No. What are you, nuts? We got to get rid of electric. We got to get rid of gas lawnmowers. So that's the meeting. The meeting is Davos, WEF. The meeting is the Bilderberg. We now know that's real. The meeting is a session of Congress. So again, and it's George. And even if they didn't have these meetings, George Carlin pointed out, you don't need to have a formal conspiracy to know that people who all went to the same schools, sit on the same boards,
Yep.
work for the same billionaire class, that they have a shared agenda.
I knew it was coming.
But I even, it's much farther than what George Carlin said. He's true. He's right about that. You don't need to point out where they have, but they are having meetings. They actually do. It's called the Bilderberg. It's called Davos. It's called the WEF. It's called the session of Congress. So of course they're colluding against you. But if you say so, they'll call you a conspiracy theorist. And he just told you that's crazy. Of course, everybody colludes for their own interest. Teachers come together. Farmers come together. UPS drivers come together. Amazon workers come together. Well, Starbucks workers come together. Everybody, Teamsters they all come together to try to advocate together and plan for their own economic interests. You think the people who own everything don't do that?
It's called unionising. It's called unionising. Come back. Oh, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. Let's not let Michael Parenti's passing go unnoticed. In the sense that go and watch some Michael Parenti. Seriously, there's heaps of it on here. And it will really open your eyes to a lot of stuff. On how we've been duped to think that let's look at it this way. In the West or anywhere, we only know what we've been told and it's always been shut down, right? I'm not saying communism is a great thing. Marxism, absolutely not. Nazism, no. Stalinism, no. Leninism, no. Feudalism, no. Technocracy, no. Democracy isn't working out too well, is it? But it seems to be forced on us, and all the others always get hammered. They get hammered. Socialism has never really been given a fair chance, except in the places where it seems to be working. Do you realise the paradigm shift and the pivot I had, the mental fucking gymnastics I had to go through to accept that? Sorry, but it's a fact. It hurts me to say it to you, nearly. But it's a fact, nonetheless. You've just had it drummed in your head forever that democracy is the only way. It's the most failed experiment that I've seen. It's failing on its own. No one's even having to hammer it down. No, we don't have reds under the beds and all that shit. We're falling apart all by ourselves. Yeah, Michael, let's not let it be in vain, eh? Let's not let it go to waste.
Of course they do. What do you want to say, Kurt?
Well, I still don't get the idea that a conspiracy theory, if you're not telling me the truth, what am I supposed to do except theorize
Right.
what the fucking conspiracy is? Tell me the truth, or I'm going to try to figure it out myself. And if I'm wrong and it harms you, good!
And the definition of a conspiracy, which they never tell you, is two or more people. All it takes is two people for a conspiracy getting together, planning a criminal. Because they charge people with conspiracies in the
They'll tell you in court.
In courtrooms from coast to coast every day. You're involved in a criminal conspiracy, meaning two or more people come together to commit something illegal.
There's another name for it. It's called consorting. And consorting is a crime in the sense that when they get two criminals that always conspire together, they are consorting, which means that they plot. The two together always plot something bad. Whenever they're together, it's now considered, because the two have always been found guilty of partnership in crime, they end up with an order where if they get caught together, they're charged for consorting. Consortiatism. Consortism. Oh, look, does it matter how I pronounce it? Consorting is conspiring. Why do you think Matthew Coventry is not allowed on the northwest coast of Tasmania? We already have these rules in place. Hello? So why do certain people get caught in this little round revolving door of solicitor and prosecutor plea deals? Tell me they're not on the payroll. Oh, by the way, Robbie Cummins went back to jail last week.
That's what a conspiracy is. Just two or more people.
It's called RICO. Call it a RICO theory.
Yeah.
If that makes you feel better, you cows. Who am I talking to?
Here's another great quote from Michael Parenti about the third world not being poor.
The third world is not poor. You don't go to poor countries to make money. There are very few poor countries in this world. Most countries are rich. The Philippines are rich. Brazil is rich. Mexico is rich. Chile is rich. Only the people are poor. But there's billions to be made there, to be carved out and to be taken.
So say the same thing about Haiti.
Been billions for 400 years. The capitalist European and North American powers have carved out and taken the timber, the flax, the hemp, the cocoa, the rum, the tin, the copper, the iron, the rubber, the bauxite, the slaves.
And now the cobalt and the lithium.
And the cheap labor they have taken out of these countries. These countries are not underdeveloped, they're overexploited.
So that's also here's another great quote. If people always, because you get in these
I've seen this
arguments about
Actually, I've
like
seen the last one as well.
I'm a capitalist, but I'm not a laissez-faire capitalist, meaning just let businesses do whatever they want, because then we have to have Teddy Roosevelt come along and break up all the monopolies, because what capitalists do is they create monopolies, right? So that's what was happening at the early 1900s, and Teddy Roosevelt came along and busted them all up, because monopolies are bad for the country, they're bad for consumers, they're bad for citizens, and so you want to have competition, which that serves citizens. But when capitalists, if they had their way, they would be one big monopoly, which we actually have today. We actually have three giant companies that own everything: BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, right? So
There's another one. You're missing one. The Waltons. Yeah.
the big three private equity firms own almost everything. And so that's what capitalism has gotten us to. Capitalism has gotten us to the same thing that people hate about communism, that there's one central located power and they dictate everything. Well, that's where we are today under capitalism, and communism leads you to the same place. Here we are, no choice.
Jimmy, I'm against capital.
That's age against capitalism. So am I, to a degree. I'm against the idea that somebody can make a lot of money off the labour of, like, a single person with an idea can put a bunch of people to work and make a lot of money off of their labour and their skills and their intelligence. You see a lot of dumb people with a lot of money who really have only got that money from exploiting other people's labour and skills. I don't like that. Why? Because a lot of that came from knowing someone in a certain place, so they had access to capital. They had access to capital. They had access to start-up funding, and extra funding, kind of like how we have a certain church sector here in Tasmania, especially across the northwest coast between Ulverston and Smithton, that are actually they're involved with the secret society. They are a Mason society of sorts, and they have access to borrowing money from their church to keep their businesses afloat. As long as a certain percentage of money from the business goes into the church, the money that goes to the church is tax redeemable. It's classed as a donation, but the church is tax exempt. I know that because I've seen it with my own eyes. Steve Jackson Motors is part of that. Oh yeah, I just dobbed you in, Steve. Karen Pike at Circular Head Bodyworks, another one on the panel beater, people. I owned a business in that industry. I know what I'm talking about. I told you to leave me alone, didn't I? Hey? I'm going to sink the lot of yous.
Because I feel it leads to communism.
Yeah.
I also feel that if communism did not exist, capitalism would have to invent it.
That's
and
right.
It did.
And it did.
And it did. And I don't mean with how shitty capitalist pigs are. I mean they literally, Wall Street fucks invented communism. They wanted to destroy socialism, which had been around for quite some time before Marxist Leninism and communism.
So here's what he says.
I've mentioned all that, haven't I? I've mentioned all them and more. That's something I forgot I was going to tell you. The Walton family, right? Remember the show, The Waltons? Some older people, my age and older, would remember The Waltons. That was a propaganda show to make the Walton family look so good and special, right? It started off as a show, first off, they started off as a small family corner store, Walmart, in America, and they grew, and they became had a couple, like a chain store, and became a statewide franchise, became a national franchise, then you got Walmart, Big W. Some of the cheaper, like Dollar Tree type stores, they have a banking firm. They're hooked up with Larry Fink and BlackRock. Right, so they might have actually merged into BlackRock, but no, the Walton family brand name still lives. Anything with the big green W and a big red C, not for you to be that way, owned by the same shareholders through the Walton family. Woolworths, Big W, Dan Murphy's, Dick Smith's, Coles, Fossey's. That's past the point of monopoly. They now own all the competition. They've started up the means of delivery, online shopping, everything, and created what they call a monopsony. So what a monopsony does, they use the pretend competition to bounce off each other to fix pricing. Huh. ACCC's not doing a very good job, are they?
About, and you get, I've also had people, like whenever I debate Dave Smith, or they say, well, if we, the problem with healthcare is that the government's involved. You just if you just let corporations do what they want, it'll be great for everybody. And here's what he has to say.
The free market mythology, it argues that the most ruthless, selfish, opportunistic, greedy, calculating plunderers, applying the most heartless measures in cold-blooded pursuit of corporate interests and wealth accumulation, will produce the best results for all of us through something called the invisible hand.
Oh, that John Parenti.
That's a great quote.
The free market.
That's a great quote. So, and here's another quote he had on the free market. When people, and by the way, I'm not ripping on Dave Smith, and I probably misframed his argument. So don't say, oh, Jimmy Dore's going after. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying this is him kind of talking back to the libertarian argument. And so here's what he has to say.
Well, the libertarian problem is the guys at the top of the pyramid want me not to be a libertarian. They're going to be a libertarian, but I have to be a communist for some reason.
Okay, so let's watch.
What does it mean to be right-wing? What does it mean to be left and right? Are these just two global cults? And you
Wait, that's not the one I want to play.
Whoa! Oh, we've not gone on about that too, haven't I?
That if we had pure capitalism, we really had a free market, you would see how capitalism could work. It's the image of Prometheus bound, you know. If only you could untrammel him, and he would show you his strengths and his wonders and everything he could do for all of you. In fact, you know, we had something close to pure capitalism. I remember debating a businessman on this, and he kept talking about the free market, this, that, and government. I said, you're describing something that only we could. I said, why must you talk about it as a hypothetical future that has never been given a chance? I said, we did that already. It's called 1890. In 1890, you had a very close approximation to a free market. And what did we have? We had contaminated foods and typhoid epidemics, cholera epidemics. The drinking water in Philadelphia was so contaminated, they had massive typhoid epidemics. We had 11-year-old kids working 14 hours a day in factories, free market, while grown men were unemployed.
Yeah, look up Typhoid Mary. Look up the story of Typhoid Mary.
Young underage girls exploited in factories, used in every way, misused in every way in the free market. No government regulations, no bothersome feminists to come along and fill our heads with silly imaginary problems. We had an environment that was systematically pillaged and raped. We had unrestrained monopolies and trusts. We had mass poverty, unemployment. We had no pension programs, unsafe working conditions, a rate of accident and injury that was even higher than it is today. And we had very, very high profits. So you're right, capitalism was working at its best. And that is when capitalism works at its best. Not for the people, but for the capitalists. See, the whole essence of that system is that it has a performance and a goal that is for the people who own the system, not for the people who inhabit the country. And in that sense, it was a better system. And when that guy sits there and says, it was better, it'd be better if we had this better, he's talking from his class perspective. He honestly believes that would be better. And it would be so much better for him, he can't but help believe that it would be better for everyone else. People always pose that. Well, do you think they really honestly think that is an ideology that would be for the country, or is their selfish class interest? As if this is either or. I always get questions, some variation of a question like that. That's not either or. Those are both the same thing. The fact that it so well serves their class interest makes it all the more compelling as a belief that it's good for everyone, and it's the right thing, and it's the best thing.
You shouldn't speed John Parenti up. It ruins it. He has
So
a way of
I
speaking.
thought that was also very well said. And you know, when I say I'm a capitalist like the capitalists are in Sweden or in Norway or in Denmark, right? They have markets, but they also have a very strong social safety net. They have regulations and they keep the monopolies from being monopolies, because that's what capitalists do. Immediately they want to do monopolies. That's exactly what they do, which is what we have now.
We have Chinese style. We have the Chinese state capitalist model that they envy the capitalists here.
Yeah. Yes. So here,
That was partly what fucking actually was. Come back. Oh no, this is getting a bit lengthy. How long has that gone through? What's left? Alright. I think I'll do this in 2 parts. So it uploads a bit better. Come back to part 2.
forget what he says here.